Hi.
Hi.
For me, honored to be speaking with you, and thank you very much for this interview. And for our subscribers, I want to start this interview from in Ukrainian language. Yeah. Тож, перше моє запитання. Ви відкрили молодіжний простір в місті Миколаєві, і по Україні багато центрів, які відкриває ЮНІСЕФ. Чи є у них така популярність, що називається, і як багато людей взагалі відвідують цей центр, і яка це вікова категорія, скільки це років зазвичай?
Дякую, Kirill. Thanks for your question. You're right. We have been opening quite a significant number of centers recently. And our purpose is actually to nurture the potential of Ukrainian youth, which is critical for the nation's future and resilience and prosperity, of course, because when we talk about future of Ukraine and its recovery, we talk about people, we talk about new generation, and this is very critical to us. And this is why we're establishing youth centers across the country to promote social and individual development of young people themselves, and making sure that they're involved in decision-making processes, integrating them into community life so that they see the value in itself. They are recognized as agents of change. We empower them, of course, economically. We foster civic engagement, which is part of also democratization of the country, and we're offering non-formal education and recreation activities. I have visited many of them, so youth centers are very popular. They're very busy, actually. Many young people gather, and there are different sets of activities that they engage in. I have seen them in also small ramadas, with 14 new centers opened last year. This year, recently, I opened personally 2 and 1 in Mykolaiv. Our commitment for that is that also this year, before the end of 2024, we are aiming to reach more than 375,000 young people, supporting their skills, as I mentioned, their overall development, but also enabling their participation opportunities. These youth centers also help with mental health of young people. You know, with the war, new generation is going through additional stressors, with especially in the frontline areas, schools and universities being closed. So this is critical infrastructure and service we offer to young people so that they can also transition from learning to earning. So our age category for youth centers is from 15 to 24 years old. So it is very important that young people get all this required skill set.
Для термінового відновлення водопостачання там було в Полтаві, ви теж були в Полтаві, і ЮНІСЕФ погодило допомогу, я от зараз звіряюся, 8 мільйонів гривень. Коли планується надати цю допомогу, коли, власне, водоканал це отримає цю допомогу, скільки зазвичай тривають ці організаційні моменти, бюрократичні навіть процедури в якійсь мірі, я так розумію.
We actually lead on water and sanitation and hygiene in terms of emergency response in the frontline areas in the east and the south, but also we're bringing all stakeholders together. Recently, Poltava's acting mayor approached us with the request, and also governor of Poltava, saying that there is immense need. There are issues with water supply, major concerns with sewage system, and requiring kind of investment both from the government but also from partners like UNICEF. So upon the request from the local authorities and interaction with Poltavawodokanal, I have visited myself and also signed new memorandum and all the documents during my visit, like maybe 10 days ago. And UNICEF is providing support in the form of providing direct equipment and materials, in some cases financial support to restore stable water services for the affected communities. And all necessary documents, as I have mentioned, were signed. And we expect already deliver of the results very soon. Even today, Poltava's acting mayor had a meeting with Vodokанал, and they already indicated that process is moving. So we try to be responsive to the needs and to be very agile and quick. But of course, there is always bureaucracy from both sides, from the government and from our end. But because we are operating in emergency environment, we are trying to be as quick as possible.
Ви нещодавно були, от знову ж таки, Полтава, Запоріжжя, Харків, Миколаїв і Одеса. Сподіваюся, я нічого не забув тут. Які потреби, власне, зараз дітей у цих регіонах, досить складних регіонах, що Полтава, Запоріжжя, Харків, Миколаїв, Одеса часто обстрілюються? Які потреби в дітей там? Що ви побачили?
Indeed, as the war in Ukraine rages on, 3.4 million people have been displaced, and almost 15 million, including almost 3 million children, urgently need humanitarian support. And why this support is required, it is not only for life-saving interventions for children directly and families in the affected communities, but also because critical infrastructure is damaged and services that children rely on also require special attention. So we know that around 20% of Ukrainian children actually require long-term aid. So it is not just today displacement happens or mandatory relocation like in Kharkiv is happening and we just need to provide one-off support, immediate support. But actually what we do as UNICEF, because we have both humanitarian mandate, but also we are a development agency. So we are looking at the longer term needs. And we, according to our estimates, believe that around 20% of Ukrainian children require this long-term support. And there are many dimensions to that. For example, I mentioned earlier mental health conditions have worsened. And it is already affecting 25% of population, especially children. You can relate to that, I'm sure, being young yourself, but it is impacting everyone, even if we're not talking about attacks and shellings, even air alerts themselves add on to the stress and anxiety that children go through. We also know that children don't have a safe environment to enjoy their childhood. 50% of school children in the country rely on online learning, either completely or part-time or blended learning. So what does it mean for their mental well-being? We can only imagine the scale, right? We also know that almost 3,800 educational facilities were damaged or destroyed since the full-scale invasion. And actually close to 60% of preschool children are not receiving early childhood education. So when we talk about needs and what children are facing in Ukraine, with these numbers, you can already sense that needs are immense and interventions required immediately, but also in a long trajectory.
Чому саме от ці міста? Вони досить небезпечні. Чому ви поїхали саме в ці міста?
First, I mean, as UNICEF representative to Ukraine, of course, I came to Ukraine little more than 6 months ago to make sure that our main target group, which are children and young people and their families, get all the support required. And as a child rights organization, our role to be in the ground, to be in the front line. UNICEF has offices in all the locations that you have mentioned earlier. So we are making sure that we are present. We were here before the war, we're here during the war, and we will stay and deliver, even in most difficult conditions, because this is where UNICEF is needed most. We're not here just to sit in our offices in Kiev and do programs, but we have to be out there on the ground for children and for families. And this is why I prioritize personally also traveling frequently, including to the front line. I've been already to 16 regions of Ukraine and visited frontline areas and oblasts multiple times, and I will continue doing so because this is where UNICEF is needed.
Власне, чи є там проблема з освітою для дітей? Тому що досить складно забезпечити навчання для дітей, які там навчаються. Це лінія фронту.
I already indicated you some numbers, but education in Ukraine has been disrupted repeatedly, right? First, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and since February 2022 with the escalation of the war. And what does it mean again to children? Education for children, particularly in those communities and frontline areas, starting from Donetsk to all the way till Odessa in the south, actually particularly impacted by displacement of children, meaning that many children have left their home communities, meaning that they don't have any longer that connection with their schools, with their surrounding that they used to and felt comfortable with, right? So they're displaced, which is one trauma. Then schools are closed due to the absence of proper shelters. You know that in many frontline areas, schools are still not operating in their full capacity, and government is trying to address it by rehabilitating or constructing shelters, and we as UNICEF helping them in that process. There are also attacks happening on also civil infrastructure, including on schools. There are also lack of devices and connectivity for some of the children, because, you know, schools where they're not accessible, they offer online education. But we understand that not all children have access to digital devices. But now I'm sitting in the office in Kiev, even I don't have electricity here, right, in UNICEF office. So imagine what does it mean to children in those areas. Even if they have devices, then connectivity is limited because of the power cuts and internet connectivity. And on top of that, you have all the stress because of air alerts and shelling. So Ukrainian children experience profound learning losses and risk of losing critical years of schooling and social development. But we're still optimistic, because when I traveled less than 2 weeks ago to all the regions, we are already talking with governors and mayors about resuming offline education by new school year, hopefully. So provided that we make sure that we address all the needs and gaps on the ground.
Угу. Тобто там складна ситуація досить.
With education, again, we're trying to organize some catch-up classes. We establish digital learning centers, but these are not really long-term solutions. So we really hope by September we will be able to get children as much as possible back to schools. And then we will need to see how we recover the learning losses for all this time that they have missed in schooling.